You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 126, Puzzling Marketing with Josh Haynam. This episode of the Word Slinger Podcast is brought to you by Draft to Digital. Convert your manuscript, distribute it online, and get support the whole way at drafttodigital.com.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger, and man, I'm coming to you on a very rainy Friday morning as I produce this episode. We actually have Hurricane Harvey threatening the Texas Gulf Coast, so could be a harrowing few days. We're supposed to get quite a bit of rain here. We are fortunately in the Houston area. We're missing sort of the epicenter of the hurricane, but we're gonna get a crap ton of rain. And Houston is it's known for gathering and collecting that rain and allowing it to flood out homes and buildings and cars. So we'll look for news stories about that in the next week or two. I'm sure we're going to have plenty. No, I'm not trying to make light of it. These are dangerous, threatening times. And if you're listening to the episode right now during this, and you are in the Houston area or anywhere in the Texas Gulf Coast area, consider getting to higher ground. Seriously, we're pretty high and dry where we are. I'm hoping that we don't suffer like damage to cars or anything. But that's what insurance is for. So we'll manage. At any rate, stay safe out there. It's going to be a little nasty. If you're elsewhere in the country, you probably are not experiencing a hurricane, but there are probably things you need to pay attention to. Now, interestingly, this week that was the eclipse. There was a total eclipse in certain parts of the U.S. Hadn't seen one of those here in a while. I can't remember the last one, actually. I remember as a kid slipping out and checking out an eclipse. It was a lot of fun, and I built a little camera obscura out of a pair of binoculars and watched the whole thing happen. I watched it on YouTube as well, and live on YouTube, and it was kind of an event. Sorry, I keep clearing my throat in your ear, but I am not sorry that I did not sing to you "Total Eclipse of the Heart," which I've heard 1,000 times. Joke isn't funny anymore. Anyway, I got a voicemail I'm going to play and a question I'm going to read. Let's deal with the question first. So it's a lengthy email, but this comes from Jason Cobley. It's not that lengthy, and that wasn't meant to be a criticism, Jason. Thank you for writing in. So let me read this email. I'll go through the whole thing here. Hi, I just wanted to know if I can ask a question on the Word Slinger podcast show. And the answer is, of course, yes. He sent this to me through Patreon, so that's cool. Thanks, Jason. So here's the question. Authors seem preoccupied about learning about how many words per day or hour other writers write. Few seem to ask about editing. Being a pantser, I find them writing much faster than the editing. In fact, I wrote my current work in progress in about a month. The second draft took 4 months and almost doubled the word count to 120K words. The third draft was 125K words. And then this was sent to my editor. Excuse me. Now doing the fourth draft, and it's sitting at about 120K words again. And we are about 60% of the way through the final edit. So about a year and a half is up. A year and a half all up, he says. Though I have also written books 2 and 3 in this period. So my question is, and sorry again, man, I'm having some throat issues, I'm sorry. So my question is, how many drafts do you normally do? Is your second draft like a developmental edit? The third more like a copy edit? How many words per day do you edit? And lastly, any tips for a pantser to not have to edit so much after the first draft, short of becoming a plotter? Thanks. P.S. Plotting is boring. So, thanks, Jason, for writing this in. Now, okay, so I'm a pantser as well. I actually don't do multiple rounds of revision. The way I do it, it's a little bit more like Dean Wesley Smith's advice. And if you tune way back, it's not that far back. I think I talked to, let's see, I'm going to do a real quick scan. I talked to Wesley Smith in episode 116. So that was a few months ago. It was in June. So tune back into that one. You'll hear a little bit about his method. But essentially what I do is rather than do full rewrites as I edit, or full edit sessions, I hop back and do a little bit of editing about once a week, really. What I do is I write until I get to a point where I feel like I'm, if you get to the muddy middle of a book, you may know what I'm talking about. If I get to a point where things have slowed down and I've lost some momentum, I always take the opportunity to go back, reread a bit, do some editing, and get myself up to speed. And then 100% of the time when I hit that muddy middle, I blast right through it. I have all the momentum of the story back, and I'm able to finish it out. What I've started doing, which is something I learned from Dean Wesley Smith, and he hops back about every 500 words or so and edits what he just wrote. I don't do quite that. I write for a bit longer than that. But what I've started doing is writing for a day, doing my daily word count. And then the following day, I'll read through what I wrote, and then I'll start writing again. What I found, so first of all, my long-standing advice has always been, do not, when you're writing, your sole job is to write. So don't edit as you write. It doesn't just like double or triple the time it takes to finish a manuscript. Sometimes you won't finish at all. It increases the likelihood of not finishing exponentially. So don't edit as you write. Your job as an author, your job as a writer while writing is writing. Your job as an editor while editing is editing. So keep those jobs separate. Now, that said, the concession I've made is that it's fine to edit before you start writing again. I think that actually is pretty helpful. So editing the word count from the day before is very helpful. As far as how much I edit per day, I mean, that by that formula, it's the whatever number of words I edited the day or wrote the day before. So I don't do these multiple. I used to back in the day. I used to do multiple rounds of revision, and developmental editing is something I don't really. I think we're natural storytellers, so I don't do a ton of developmental editing per se. I do in terms of I read what I wrote, make sure that everything is making sense, clicking with the story I'm trying to tell, written at the pace I'm trying to write. But I don't do like an official developmental edit. I don't send it to someone to have that done. Now, I use street teams for my editing these days because I've paid a lot of money to editors over the years and gotten some spotty results. And my street team has been great for helping me find the bulk of errors when I give them the time. Now, sometimes I rush them a little too much. And the result is I release a book that still has a bunch of typos, and then I hear about those typos after the fact, which is fine. We're in an age of iterative publishing, and it is perfectly fine, despite what some people will tell you, to go back and edit and re-release a new edition of the book. You can edit and re-release a new edition within a day's time if you have to. So to me, it's not as important to get the book perfect. It's important to get the book finished and make sure it's done well. Do it to the best of your capabilities at that moment. Enlist the help of other people to make it even better. And then go in knowing that you can always update and fix things as you go. So you're going to I take some criticism over that, but it's working pretty well. You can't argue with the results. So there you go, man. I hope I answered everything. I think I did. If you prefer doing drafts and edits, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can still use a street team if you want to do that, but if you have editors you trust and you hire them, I think it's probably normal to do, and just essentially as you laid it out, do a draft that is your first draft, hand that off to an editor to catch major gaffes and goofs. But I would, in between those, I would actually go back and do at least a read through of the whole manuscript. If you don't do it as you go, read through and correct things you find yourself, because you're paying for time. So if you hand an editor a sloppy first draft version of your book, you're paying them to go back and fix the things you could have easily fixed yourself. So just be smart about it, And speaking of street teams, I have a voicemail. And thanks, Jason, by the way, for sending that email. And however you can reach me, you can send me any question you have. I'll be happy to answer it. You can reach out to me on Patreon if you want. I will be retooling that. Promises, I know. But I'll give you more of this news after the interview. But we've got some things brewing, and I think you're going to dig it. Stick around after the interview. I'll fill you in. So now my next question relates to street teams. And this one comes in as a voicemail. So let me cue that up.
Hello, Kevin. I hope I dialed this right. This is Luke Barnett. I had a question on street teams. How do you assemble them? What do you ask them to do? What do you offer them in return? And anything else you can tell me about street teams? How to make them work well for you. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for all you do. Talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Luke, man. I appreciate it. And Luke, by the way, left that voicemail from by calling me on my WordSlinger hotline, we'll call it, at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. And you can do the same. So, all right. You can also leave a voicemail from the website there if you take a look. So there's a little tab. It's floating on the bottom right now. So we'll get to that later. All right. So Luke, street teams, they're one of my favorite things. These are readers. They're people who've shown some loyalty to you. What I did was I recruited from my mailing list. I reached out. I told people I'm going to build a street team of X number of people. At the time I said like around 100 people. If you're interested, let me know. Now, I knew I was going to get a flood of people, but I put some requirements in there. I said, send me a review that you've written and published on Amazon for a book, within the past. I don't think I even gave it a timeline. Just send me any review. I think it would be better to give a timeline now that I think about it. Send a review you've written in the past, month to 3 months, we'll say. That means that they're currently active doing that sort of thing, so that's good. That's sort of a proof that they're on board. And I always ask my street team to leave reviews for the books once they're done reading. So that's a perk. I ask them to identify typos. I give them some instructions. So what I've done is add them to a mailing list, and more recently I'm stealing an idea from Nick Thacker, and I started a Facebook group, which is it's a protected private group. It's the WordSlinger street team, I think is what I called it, or the Kevin Tomlinson's street team, I believe is probably right. And I invite them into that group, and I put them on a mailing list, and when I get a new book finished, ready to be edited, I do my edit pass, and I usually have gone through it several times by the time I hand it off. To jump back into the previous question, I jump back and read and edit as I go, just before my writing sessions, and then I jump back and read and edit the entire book as a manuscript before putting it in layout. So I convert it to Word, drop it in, do an edit, do a spell check and everything, and then drop it in, convert it to an ebook. So and then that goes out to my street team. What I do is I email them first, and I say, I've got a new book. Here's the cover. Here's the synopsis. And here's the usual way I want things done. And I outline in like 5 steps. I say, read it, jot down sentences that contain the error you found, so I can at least get the wording before and after that error, so that I can search the document easier. A lot of people will use their Kindle app or whatever to read the book, and they'll mark it, and that's fine too, because you can export from Kindle. At least you can export the whole document with notations. You can export all your notes and your highlights as I think it's like an HTML formatted document. I'm fine with that too. It's a little easier if they just copy and paste or quickly jot down what the sentence is, a little easier for me to find. But the other, I want to make things as easy on them as possible. So they'll send me those edits. I make them and I publish. Now, what they get out of it, they get a free book, which I think is fine with most of them. But they tend to be the first people I approach with certain things. I revealed the cover for my new book to this group before anyone else saw it, and no one else has seen it yet, actually. So the only people who have seen it have been my street team, and they offer some feedback or whatever. And sometimes I take that feedback and I use it. Sometimes I don't. But the being a member has its perks. So they're usually the deal I strike with them is pretty much anything I do book related, you're going to be the first ones to see it. Certain exceptions apply. If I'm co-authoring a book with like Nick or something, I can't just toss it to those guys first. I have to, Nick and I have a process. Will and act. Yeah, we do it's kind of the same group, really. So no big deal. But that's pretty much it. I mean, the way I use street teams, it's a goodwill kind of thing. Anything I get that I can pass on to them as a bonus for being on the team, I do. If I get coupon codes, for example, I've got a limited number of coupon codes to download, one of my audiobooks, or to, I get the opportunity to give away some free stuff. I mean, those are the people that are going to get that kind of thing first. So membership does have its privileges. These are the same sorts of things that as I move forward with Patreon, I'm going to be tweaking that. So I may actually make street team membership. I don't know. We'll see. I was thinking I might build in a tier where people can be on the street team automatically, not as their sole reward for their donation or something, because I don't want it to be pay to play. But as part of, you're this elite member and you get all this free stuff, plus you get on the street team and get free books. I think that would be an acceptable tier level. So working on all those things. Anyway, I hope that answered your question, man. We're almost 20 minutes in, so we're running a little later than usual, but I do appreciate these questions. Thanks, Luke, for calling in. Thanks, Jason, for writing. Everyone else, I hope you got something useful out of that, and feel free to hit me up with questions via email or voicemail, either one. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com and all your dreams can be made real. At least as far as how to contact me. All right. Without further ado, I want to hop in because we got a great interview today. I talked to Josh Haynam. He's the co-founder at Interact Quiz Builder. This is a unique and interesting way to market your work, I think. And I have not yet started doing this. I've got an open invitation to start and hop in. Played around with it a little, and then I got sidetracked with Wordslinger podcast Redux redo. So I'm impressed by how this works, and I think you will be too. So 20 minutes in, sorry about that, but I hope you enjoy. I know you'll enjoy this interview with Josh Haynam. So I will see you afterward with some updates and news about Wordslinger and beyond. See you there. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Now I'm sitting here, I'm having a conversation with somebody who approached me on LinkedIn, which is sometimes a good way to get in touch with me, sometimes not. It depends on who you are. And but this guy had such an interesting proposition, I found that I wanted to talk to him. I'm talking to Josh Haynam. He's the co-founder at Interact Quiz Builder, and we're gonna. Quizzes are something we have not discussed on the Wordslinger podcast, but I'm glad for the opportunity. So welcome to the show, Josh.
Thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it.
No, man, it's cool. It was intriguing when you reached out because I've been approached by people pitching just about anything you can imagine at this point. But this is literally the first time anyone's come to me and said, I do quizzes. Quizzes are big right now, and that's not something I had actually considered. So, but just perusing Facebook, I can vouch for, the whole quiz thing is pretty big. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what you guys do and how you got into this?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you're totally right. If you look at Facebook at all right now, you'll see that quizzes are a huge deal. And basically what we do is provide a platform for brands to make quizzes like those ones you see all over Facebook.
Okay.
So, if I'm HBO, if I'm the Red Cross, if I am Home Depot, and I want to make a quiz to engage my audience and get more people involved, you can use Interact for that. And I think it's really important, and how we got into this in the first place was we were actually an agency, myself and my co-founder. We were building websites, and quizzes started trending. Like, they started popping up everywhere.
Right.
And we actually started building some of them from scratch for some of our clients, just because they were looking for ways to engage their audience, grow their email lists, all kinds of stuff like that. And we started placing them onto websites just in pure code. And then they really, really worked. And that was kind of an aha moment where it was like, oh, shoot, like, you can take this thing that works incredibly well on like the pure entertainment, like just for fun consumer side, and turn it into something that works in marketing. And I think that is the coolest thing, where you're able to take a trend that is obviously all over the place right now, and actually tie it back to valuable business growth. So that's really what the platform is all about, is how do you recreate that feeling that people get when they take those quizzes that are just for fun, but then tie it to a brand so that it actually draws people into your world as a company, and you can actually start engaging with them and eventually sell products.
All right. So most of my listeners are independent authors and entrepreneurs, but I mean mostly independent authors. So one of the things I'm going to be curious about here, and I know they are too, is how does this work as a marketing strategy? Like, what is it that you're using this for? Is this just data gathering or interaction? Like, what's the draw?
Yeah, and there's actually a quiz trending right now. I'll see if I can pull it up as we're talking here, but it's from an author, and the quiz is basically, which character in the book are you?
Okay.
And the way that works is the author is sharing that quiz out onto all the social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, mainly, and it is a story. Well, this is actually, which story by S.A. Gibson is the best for you, right? And as you go through that quiz, you're going to be asked questions like, which of these pictures is the best for you? What do you enjoy the most? Travel, fun, importance, problem solving.
Yeah.
And you're answering these questions. After you answer all the questions, this quiz is going to ask you for your email address in order to see results. And what it's going to say is, get updates about my book.
Yeah.
Maybe get a free chapter. Something like that. In order to see your results. And oftentimes those email captures are optional because you don't want to get a bunch of spam emails. But for people who are interested, now they're on your list, right? Which is obviously incredibly valuable. ROI on email marketing is very high, and that's a very engaged audience, and you can follow up and reference the quiz when you do follow up. So you put out this quiz, it attracts people because it's fun. At the end of it, they put in their email to see their results, and now you've got them on your list, which is the number one thing that's really valuable about these. But the number two thing is that you can also have a link to go buy the book. So you can say, hey, grab the book on Amazon right now, pre-order, whatever it is. And we've seen authors have a ton of success doing that because you're drawing people in by helping them figure out which character is best. We've also seen what's your reading style, and those get kind of fun where you're like, you're the window seat reader or the outdoor reader, right? So it's like, what kind of reader are you? What kind of writer are you? Can also work for some audiences. So we've seen all kinds of cool stuff done in that vein.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. For whatever reason, it didn't even occur to me that it could be a list building tool, but it's an obvious, no-brainer tool at that point.
Yeah, and it works really well. We actually just crossed 4.5 million leads have been collected through our platform for our customers. Yeah. So that's 4.5 million new email subscribers that our customers have gained. So that's a ton of value. And the fact that you can then follow up and reference the quiz when you're following up is perfect because they're going to remember the quiz. The quiz is fun. So then when you follow up via email and reference that, it's a perfect segue into kind of email marketing.
So do you guys vet that incoming list at all, like to clear out like the junk mail, or no, not the junk mail, the fake email addresses and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we have some JavaScript libraries that go into that. That's a little bit of technical speak, but basically we run through those and make sure that like the common fake emails are weeded out right away. And then when you leave it as an optional email capture, so it's like enter your email to see your quiz outcome, but if you want to just go straight to the results, click this button. Yeah. That's the best way to do it. And so those two things together will kind of weed out all the junk, and you'll end up with just some clean list of email subscribers.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah. So, is there any other data that gets included if you're using these, like aside from just collecting emails?
So, going over to your email list, you mean?
Yeah, or anything. I mean, what all does the quiz capture? For example, if I wanted to use this, I don't know. This is off the cuff, okay, but let's say that I would love to capture a bunch of readers who ended up being just like this particular character in my book or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, do I get their results as part of the data, or how's that work?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Cool. So with some email marketing programs, you can actually just put people onto different lists depending on which outcome they get. That's so awesome. I want, all my window seat readers to be on a list if I have some special offer for window seat readers, right? Yeah. Anything like that. And you can break that down even further. And this is kind of crazy. You can do the same thing based on how they answer a particular question. Okay. So if you say, like, which of these is your favorite, and you have travel, going to the beach, and skiing, just for example, off the cuff, you could have different follow-ups you could put those people onto different lists depending on which outcome.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Like the whole premise of what we're trying to do is make marketing feel more like a conversation. And what is a conversation if you think about it? It's like you responding to things that other people say in real time in an intelligent way. I mean, that's a very simplified version of what conversation is, but a big part of it is just responding to what other people say. And this allows you to do that because I say I like going to the beach. You say, here's some books about beaches, or here's, this piece I did about beaches, like whatever it is. And that's amazing. That allows you to really connect directly with people at scale. Like it's not just one person at a time.
No, that's incredible. I'm thinking immediately you're talking about the beach, and I'm like, summer reads, and that's the crowd you'd hit up if they're going to go, lounge on a beach, say a New Jersey beach, and they're no, we'll leave Chris alone. Like that. So you, this is very cool, man. I mean, when you first brought this up to me, I thought, this is an entertaining way to attract some readers to this website, or get kind of get some feed, bounce around on Facebook or something like that. But it didn't even occur to me to use this to grow that mailing list and further to segment it. I mean, that's sweet, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's the end goal of what we're trying to do. Like, it's a long process to get from silly quiz to, personalized marketing at scale, but that's really what it is. It allows you to make your marketing message personalized and relevant to every single person who's interested in, for example, reading what you have to write. You can filter them into a specific category that reaches them where they are based on what interests they have, what they care about. And those are really powerful, fundamental things. They're not just like fleeting things. Those are powerful, like human things that we're tapping into using, this medium of quizzes, which is like a silly, fun thing, but it really does go a lot deeper than that. Right.
So as I'm an author coming in, I'm going to use your service. What's going to be my responsibility on that side? Like what am I going to have to produce?
Yeah, so there's two ways you can go about it, but the new way to go about it, which is vastly improved over how we used to do things, is you come in, you create an account, you select a pre-made quiz template. Okay. So we actually have templates we have a books category. So you go into the books category, you'd grab the what type of reader are you template, for example. You would load that into our builder. You'd modify everything that you want to modify. So let's say I want to change 3 of the questions out of the 7. I can change those. Let's say I want to change the outcomes to be relevant to my particular book. Obviously, you're going to want to do that. But instead of having to start everything from scratch, you have this template already built in, and you can modify it. So you're not having to think through every single element of every single question, every answer. It's all there for you. And then you just mold it to your particular personal brand. So that's what you're going to do. And then you're going to connect it up to your email list, which is literally 3 clicks. It's click to select what fields you want to offer or ask for, click to authorize connecting it to your list, and then click to confirm and test. And then you're done. So it's connected to your list and sending all that data that we talked about. And then when you're done with all that, you'll just publish it. You can embed it onto your site with an iframe, just like you do a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Or you can just share a direct link out to social media, and you're up and running. So a lot of people will get it done in an hour, sometimes an afternoon. It depends on how custom you want to make it.
So now I'm using a custom email management system right now. Long story, but would I be able to, so it's not going to be on a list of available email services. So would I still be able to use your service? Like, can I export as a CSV file or something like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you've gotten into the weeds on the technical side, but you can also set up a webhook to actually post all the information to a URL.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will look into that.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of advanced, but yeah, it allows us to connect with literally any email system.
Okay, that's pretty sweet, actually. So yeah, because one of the biggest problems we've had, we're developing something, a partner and I, and one of the biggest problems has always been that we're not included in all the nifty, cool drop-down menus because we don't. No one knows who we are yet. So,
Gotcha.
So that's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
See, you've helped me with another problem, and you didn't even know you were going to do it.
There we go.
So and I'm seeing some big names on your site here, by the way. Tony Robbins, man. I just interviewed a good friend of Tony's, and Rosetta Stone, groups like that. So, how are you? How are you seeing them use these? I mean, are they kind of what we're talking about? Is it mostly just about attracting and segmenting that mailing list, or do they have any other more inventive uses going on?
I think the best way to use these is to lean into what's working on social in general. So you're tapping into what BuzzFeed's doing. You're tapping into what all these news sites are doing, what all these entertainment sites are doing when they're making quizzes, but you're adapting that to your brand. So just like we talked about, how you'd adapt it to a book by saying which character in the book are you, or more broadly, what type of reader are you. That's how you'd connect it back to your brand, but you're still tapping into the original concept of a quiz, which is, what type of blank are you? Which type of, blank are you? Which character are you? Whatever. Yeah. And you're just connecting that back to your brand. So you're gradually bringing people into the fold, if you will. So you're going out, you're basically emulating a quiz that's already really popular on Facebook. You're connecting it to your brand by changing the concept of the quiz to be, relevant to what you're actually doing. Then you're collecting the emails and sending follow-ups based on which outcome or how they answer questions. And so you kind of see how that's like a stepwise method for, you're starting with something that is just like what's already popular on social media, but you're ending with a customer who you're having a conversation with, a potential buyer, a potential reader who you're having a conversation with in a very personalized way. So it kind of draws people in a very, very natural way. And that's really the magic of quizzes. And what all of our big customers have done is emulate what's already popular on Facebook, i.e. the quizzes, but connect it back to their brand, and that's really all you have to do.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, and I'm looking over your options here. I see you have a free option, but that doesn't give anyone any leads, huh?
Yeah, so that's really, that's for playing with the system. We recognize that just like, when I sent you the message and you're like, I've never heard of this, no one's ever heard of this. So our entire system is built to get you comfortable with it. So you can start for free, play around with how the platform works, preview what your quiz is actually going to look like, and then you can actually upgrade on a trial. So let's say I already have my quiz built. I want to test out whether it helps me get emails. I can start a trial. It's totally free. I can launch it for free, put it out on social. Okay, I'm getting a lot of emails from this. Then you end up on a paid plan. But it's very much an intro because we recognize that literally 99% of our customers have never done this before.
Right. Yeah, it's this is new. I mean, honestly, I talk to hundreds of authors all the time. A lot of whom are using internet marketing techniques, and this isn't something I ever hear about. So what that says to me is there's a golden opportunity there for authors and any entrepreneur. But I mean, authors in particular, that's who I'm going to care most about. I'm the indie author advocate. I'm going to care about them the most. But this is very cool. So what are... Man, I hesitate. I don't even know what else to ask on this. Like, are there limitations? Are there things we need to know before we jump in, or best practices or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important elements, and I've done a lot of writing about this as well, is to remember that a quiz is a conversation.
Yeah,
and that's the magic of it. So when you jump in and make a quiz, let's say you're going to try this for the first time. The way to make sure that you have a positive experience the first time, because obviously it's tough to do something brand new, right? There's a lot of apprehension. It's like, is my time going to be wasted? The way to make sure you don't waste your time is sit down, and when you're creating a quiz, act like the person who you want to take your quiz, and think of one person. Act like that one person is literally sitting across from you, and you are asking them questions. Then write those questions into your quiz, because the quizzes that we have seen blow up, and we've literally seen quizzes do 1 million hits in a day, those quizzes are written as if you're sitting down with a friend and asking them about their summer, or about what they like about the holidays, or what they like about spring, or whatever. Like, those quizzes are written in such a personal way. And the reason that works is because it is a personal thing. It's a one-to-one conversation. I am asking you questions as an individual. You're answering those questions as an individual. We're the only ones talking, even though this is a scripted conversation through this medium of a quiz.
Right.
It is a conversation. So that's the way to think about it. It's really important to have that perspective, because a lot of times our customers will come in and they'll think of it as like a mass broadcast thing, right? And they're going to think, I need this to be professional. I need this to be like really clean cut. And then it ends up not performing well. You end up with a quiz that feels like school or something like that. Right. So the secret to these quizzes is that they are written in a very, very personal and kind of pared down way that is literally just like you would say if somebody was actually sitting next to you. So that's the biggest piece of advice I can give, and I think that's kind of the future of marketing in a lot of sense as well.
I agree, man. Here's what's funny about that. That advice is the exact advice every author gets when we're talking about their ideal reader. Like it's the same concept. So if the author is familiar with that concept, all they're doing is tailoring this quiz to their ideal reader, which is this is good practice all around, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think marketing is already should already be right there. This is about having a personal conversation. It's about one-on-one. Broadcasting to the masses doesn't get anyone anywhere anymore.
No, and I think that's what's opened up the opportunity for us, and we've been growing like nuts the last 6 months, and I think that's where we're starting to see an opportunity is that people are very apprehensive about doing new things, but the time that they will do new things, which is what's happening right now, is when the old things aren't working anymore. And I think we're finally starting to see what everybody's been talking about for years and years, which is that advertising is losing its luster. Broadcast mediums are losing their luster. Even content marketing is losing its luster, you know, in terms of like just putting out a bunch of blog posts and hoping that gets you customers. Like that stuff's really, really losing the ROI in terms of the time input. So people are seeking something new. And I really think the new thing is going to be this personalization aspect, like where everything feels like you're having a conversation rather than being talked at.
Yeah. So what's the strategy here? Like, should someone have like 100 of these floating around, and you know, is it posted only on social media, on your website, email? What's the best strategy here?
Yeah. So there are two ways you can approach it. Two main ways. And the first way is definitely the one that we've seen more success with, which is where you have one really great quiz. Let's say you're an author and it is which character in the book are you quiz, right?
Right.
And you'll have that embedded on your site. There will be a link to it in the navigation. So like take the character quiz. You'll have it posted out on social media routinely, and you'll use that one quiz as a marketing channel for you. Like that quiz itself is a marketing strategy. And we've seen authors actually do that for like years, like 2 years. And it continues to have success because you're reaching a new audience. Like some people might come back and take it, and they actually do, which is really interesting psychology. Like people will take the same quiz like 4 or 5 times and see if they get different results. And it doesn't bother them that they're doing the same quiz because it's a different experience every time. So that's one thing to think about. But you have that one quiz spread across all your channels and you continue to use it. And that's definitely the number one strategy. You can go with like a regular cadence. And we do have customers that do monthly, weekly. We even have some that do daily and twice daily, which is crazy. It's a lot of quizzes, but you can do that. And in that case, it's more like you're tapping into current events, you're tapping into news, that type of thing, and using those, you know, things that people are thinking about to create more quizzes, and then use it as like an ongoing, like post to social media all the time type of thing. It's definitely a lot more work and investment. So I would actually recommend kind of having almost a website takeover of a quiz and using it as a way of building your list and creating those conversations and connecting with your audience.
Yeah. That sounds like a sound strategy. I'll follow your advice. You guys are integrated with quite a few email management systems here. I'm looking, and a few some oddballs that I think are kind of cool, like Facebook ads. Is that like a direct interface? Like I would create the quiz and immediately be able to post it as an ad, or do I have to post it and then promote it or something like that, or what happens?
Yeah, so with Facebook advertising, that one's actually really cool because what you can do is you can connect it to Facebook's Pixel.
Okay.
And then basically what happens is all the data that comes from the quiz is transferred over to your advertising dashboard. And so let's say, for example, you have your character quiz and you want to serve up different follow-up ads to people based on which character they are.
Man. Yeah.
And you can literally follow them around and be like, hey, you are this character, come buy the book. And we do have numbers on that. It's 2.3x the clicks of, you know, when you do it personalized like that versus like it's just the book cover. You know, if you show a character versus book cover, 2.3 times more clicks, which is crazy. So that's what that's for. It's incredibly powerful, and you can do the same thing with Google. And you can basically just kind of follow people around and say, hey, you know, you're this character. Why don't you figure out what happens to them in the book?
Yeah.
Come buy it. And that's awesome. I mean, you're personalizing advertising. Like that that's making advertising suck a lot less, right? It's like,
yeah.
I'm not seeing something I don't care about. Like, I'm actually interested in that. Maybe show me some more information. So those two integrations are really exciting.
Yeah. It helps on the marketers end too. I mean, trying to narrow down demographics and do all the testing and everything. It's almost like you're testing them in advance. You're literally testing them in advance. Because it's quiz. But you're getting that group and segmenting it right up front, and then doing the ads. That's astounding.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much power in these things. It's crazy, and we're just starting to scratch the surface of what you can really do with it.
Yeah. So okay, what now? I want to know like the origins of this. Like, you're a co-founder, so like at what point did you and your other co-founder or co-founders sit down and over a beer or coffee or something and say, what the world needs is more quizzes? Like, what happened?
Yeah. So it's a bit crazy. I mean, where it started from is that myself and my co-founder used to create web presences for people. Like, we would create a website, we would do like all the social media setup, we would do the SEO, we do the digital marketing, the newsletter, everything. And these we would sell as like pretty hefty packages. I mean, we were in college when we were doing this, and we were selling like $30,000, like $30,000 packages to people of doing all this stuff for them. And we'd meet with them twice a week, go through all these details, build out a website, set up all their like MailChimp and their newsletter and everything, right? Like full service. And at the end of the day, all they ever cared about, like the only numbers they cared about was like, how many new subscribers did I get?
Right.
And we're just like, we did all this stuff for you. Like, look at all your website. And they didn't care. And eventually, one of the people, he was a sales consultant, wanted to do what's your selling style quiz. And so we built it. It took like a week. We built it in pure PHP, which, if you know code, is like a mess. We put it on his website, and that thing was collecting leads like nuts. It was like 75% conversion rate. Absurd. Like, way higher than anything we had ever done. Like, stuff that we had built for months and months for other people was not converting anywhere near that level. So that was like just so clear to us that like people only care about getting new email subscribers.
Yeah.
This thing helps them do that. Let's see what we can do with that. So we gradually turned that into a platform. It took over a year to actually have a version anyone could use. But we did it, kind of building them one at a time along the way, like, selling, it was a gradual transition. But right. Eventually we got to this point where there was a thing that people could use to make quizzes to gather emails. So that's where it started. It didn't actually start with... It didn't start with the fact that like quizzes were blowing up on social. This was actually before that. This was when no one cared about quizzes. But they always cared about collecting emails, and this worked. So that's kind of the roundabout way we ended up doing this.
Yeah. Man, and now I'm kind of wondering how many of your quizzes I've actually taken.
Probably a decent amount. I can rarely run into somebody like at a party now that hasn't taken one of our quizzes, which is cool, but also a little frightening.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you guys finding, like, are you doing any sort of data mining on this stuff? Like, are you able to, find that X% of people who take the quizzes prefer, boxers over briefs or something, or...
Yeah, it gets really powerful because, you can download all the statistics as a CSV file, so into Excel, and then you can actually run regressions on that to figure out the correlations between, for example, if you like boxers or briefs and, what kind of swimsuit you're going to buy. And you can do stuff like that where you connect up all the dots, which is really powerful. Like, if you know somebody likes going to a cabin, and that means they're more likely to buy skis, then You can have cabins in your skiing advertisements, like all kinds of stuff like that you can pull in. So yeah, you can download everything as a giant file, connect up the different columns, which are the answers, and then look at, kind of the path through it. It's almost like one of those, movies where there's like a math scene and all of a sudden like the formula like lights up, it's like that. And you can see exactly what's happening and what type of person is interested in reading your book, what type of person wants to buy your products, what type of person is interested in your services, all kinds of stuff like that.
Man, that's crazy. And it's like I don't know, and people are voluntarily coming in and giving you this information.
Yeah, that's the thing that's crazy is like normally you'd have to pay somebody to fill out a survey that gives you this data, but they're doing it and then they're also sharing their results, which means that other people are doing it. So it's like it's like the exact opposite. It's like viral versus like paid acquisition. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. So what are the biggest platforms for people using this? Like where are people getting to the quizzes the most?
Yeah, it's mostly through Facebook. Just like these quizzes are all over Facebook, that's where you go to, acquire new people to take them, whether it's through advertising or organic reach, anything like that. It's really, I'd say 75% through Facebook. 20% is probably through just your website. So capturing the attention of people who are already on your site by having a link to the quiz or a button for it or whatever. And then the last 5% is like a smattering of like Twitter and Pinterest and other platforms like that.
Yeah. So yeah. I see quizzes and things on Twitter, but I never do anything like that on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, it works sometimes. There's one that's been going around for the last month. I see it like all the time. It's from the United Nations and it's about like international governance or something like that. So it's much more like actually business focused, but it is cool that they're able to find an audience through that.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. So really, I mean, this is pretty exciting, and there's not much more I can ask you about it. I kind of want to just dive in and start playing with it.
Yeah.
So why don't we get to the good stuff then? Where can people find this online?
Yeah. So Interact Quiz Builder, the URL is tryinteract.com, which is fitting because most people are trying this for the first time.
Yeah.
So tryinteract.com. Like I said, you can get started for free, play around with the templates. You can see how the builder works. Our builder is it's set up like a quiz to make a quiz, like Quizception. Because again, like your first time going through, it should be very like processized, like it should be step by step so that you don't have to like think about everything at once because that's overwhelming. So it really breaks things down so you can kind of see the structure of a quiz and mess with the questions and things like that. So yeah, that's the best way to just jump into it.
Man, I love easy. And this looks easy. I'm watching the little demo video on your homepage and it's like, I can do this.
Yeah, I mean it's set up to, especially since we started like almost 4 years ago when nobody was even interested in quizzes, we've always had to be hyper aware of making sure that things are really, really easy because, it's always been a struggle of like, why should I even spend time on this? So that's resulted in a product that's just like dead simple to use.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. All right. Well, then I'm going to put links to your website and some other key information in the show notes of this episode. So everybody listening, make sure you check that out. Josh, man, I'm glad you reached out to me. This is, I think this is big, personally. I mean, I really do think this is big. And of course, you think it's big, and it is big because you've got some big names already using this. Here's what I love about that, by the way. I talk to a lot of indie authors, some of whom are not going to be known names right away, right? They can play in the same field as Forbes and Tony Robbins and American Red Cross. I love that this is completely accessible. And it's a powerful marketing tool, but it's accessible to everyone. So
Exactly.
Congratulations, man. This is a fantastic product you got.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
All right. And, of course, when everyone who knows me knows that when I become a fan of something, I become an evangelist for that brand. So I'll probably be mentioning this quite a bit. So to everyone out there, make sure you check out the show notes for this episode. Josh, thanks so much for being on the show, man. And hang out. And everyone else, we'll see you on the other side of this brief musical interlude. All right, that was my interview with Josh Haynam, and I think that you will have gotten something really interesting out of that. The whole quiz thing is something honestly, and it kind of hit me in the middle of the interview just how awesome, not awesome, because that's my southern roots showing. So just how awesome this idea was, and how great an opportunity for marketing it was, with all the things that you can do with it, getting all this data, getting specific demographic information about your audience. Man, I mean, honestly, I think it's a better way to fine tune your sort of intake of readers, at least as far as in terms of marketing, in terms of reaching out to them on platforms like Facebook and that sort of thing. I think it's a much better way to do it. But I'm gonna dig in a little further too. So anyway, so we're here at the end, and we're nearly at an hour. And I'll probably go over. Sorry about that. I do respect your time though. But I wanted to kind of fill you in the after show kind of news. Speaking of after show, that's part of the news. So I've got the web slinger. I knew I was going to do it someday. The Word Slinger podcast website, wordslingerpodcast.com. It's not, the new one is not launched yet. So if you rush over there, you're going to see the same page, the page I built on my personal site, my author site. And it's all perfectly functional and everything, but we're making some improvements. My wife and I, we've turned this into, like, every week we actually sit down and have a little business meeting about Wordslinger podcast. I've brought her into the fold, and she's doing quite a bit, and she's really intrigued by certain things, like primarily she's gotten into like social media marketing. She's gotten into affiliate marketing. She's really taken an interest, and that's been cool. It's been new energy to the whole thing. So the years now that I've spent pulling together episodes, doing interviews, building resources, building a platform, we're now looking at shifting that and coming at it strong, coming at it as an actual business. I think you're going to dig the results. Everything's still going to be like you like it, the same types of guests, the same types of interviews, but you're actually going to get more stuff out of this, so you're going to want to hang out. So the website's coming along. Now it's down to getting the individual episodes over. Now, here's a gripe I have for Squarespace. If anyone from Squarespace is listening, as much as I love the service and prefer it for my web hosting, fantastic service, fantastic customer service and support. Really couldn't ask for a better scenario, but they're just little things they just never thought about that would be very useful, and they sort of add them very slowly over time. And one of those is, if I have multiple Squarespace sites, I can't transfer content between one site and another. There's no way to export it. There's no way to back it up. There's no way to download everything at once in any form whatsoever. So moving episodes over to the new site is going to be a one-to-one manual task. So it's going to take me some time. And I know what you're saying, and I've already thought of all the angles, and I could point to all the old episodes, but when I move everything, I'm going to be transferring the RSS feed, and that means that any old episodes would be lost to the podcast feed. And I'd have to go the route of doing something like, Wordslinger Podcast Classics, and it would be a whole other podcast that I'd have to get subscribers for and that sort of thing. And it just doesn't work as a strategy. I need that back catalog of content. I need it all in the same place. I can easily repoint the feed, but I'm going to have to manually do it. So if I'm going to have to do that anyway, I'm doing a few things to tweak and update the look and feel of the show notes pages, how all that content's handled. And slightly. I mean, it's going to be familiar, but it's going to be better. And I think you're really going to enjoy it when it's all done. You'll still be able to find all these shows and episodes. If you've linked to them, they're going to stay on this site, stay on the KevinTomlinson.com pages, so you can get to them. That'll be part of an archive. But the show itself is going to move over to the new site once it's launched. Other things we're working on. I'm already working on Patreon stuff. Everything kind of hinges on the website, honestly. Once I get the site done, everything else is going to start falling into place. But I'm doing some stuff with Patreon. I've got some tiers built that I'm going to roll out. I'll be updating that very soon. I've got a YouTube channel that I'm building around the show where I'll be... I've already shifted the way I do interviews. I'm moving from doing interviews completely via Skype and telephone to I'm using Zoom.us now, and I'm experimenting. I may go back and forth. Skype is still kind of a fallback, but I'm going to have video interviews. I've built some templates to make those look nice. All the previous interviews, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Over time, I think I'll figure out a way to do something. And if you have ideas and suggestions, I've been talking to a lot of YouTubers lately, so I'm getting some ideas. But if you happen to be one, if you happen to have some ideas about that, let me know. We'll chat. It's going to be work. It's going to take time, but I think you're gonna dig the results. So little things like that, not so little things honestly, but things like that are happening, and I'm really hopeful about all of it. I'm really, the thing is, I've already built the platform for this show. I've already got the audience. I've already got everything in place. And it doesn't cost me anything or hurt anything for me to just sort of go to the next level with it. So it's a low risk, high gain kind of thing. And I still get to concentrate on my books, which is the point. So, it's going to be fun. I know I've talked about this a couple of times already, but that's where we are. Now, I did mention this, and I've mentioned this a few times before. I'm also, as part of my interviews now, I do something called the Wordslinger After Show. And it's like a 5 to 10 minute, interview or just a couple of quick questions with the guest after the show has completed. So you can get some additional information. You can get some, there will be like a little inside tips sometimes. A few of the folks I've talked to have given me some really good, juicy bits at the end of the episode that I almost like, oh man, I really want to share that. But it's going to be for those special folks who support me on Patreon. I don't know which level that's going to be on yet. And what the sort of dollar amount would be, but I think I'm going to make sure that it's something, that can be affordable for everybody, because I want you to have access to it. But got to build something. Got to build something that attracts people. And this has all been quite a bit of fun, and it's been kind of a blessing too, because my hard and fast rule throughout my career and my marriage has been, it's a bad idea to work with your spouse. So I've always avoided it. However, Kara has certain strengths that I lack in terms of her ability to manage projects and organize complex things like this. These are things that I've needed help with, and if bringing her on board both solves that problem plus gives her something she can build and be proud of and be a part of that supports her and us financially and otherwise, how could I say no? So it's been a huge deal, and I don't know, some incredible things have been happening since we did it. So I've been very blessed by all this, and you're the biggest part of that. So I want to make sure that I express to you just how grateful I am to you for your help, and how much I appreciate you listening and sharing the show, talking to people about it and spreading it around. You God bless you for it. Now, that said, if you do want to support the show, we do have that Patreon campaign, which you can get to through wordslingerpodcast.com. Just click on the Patreon logo. I appreciate that. There will be some updates to that soon. Relatively soon. Unlike previous times I've said I will get to it, I am actually working on it, so this is going to get done. And of course, if you want to leave a voicemail, you can call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. Leave me a voicemail. You can also click on it has been moved. It is at the bottom right corner instead of just the right-hand side of the screen, but it's a little orange button that says send voicemail. Click on that and you can leave me a voicemail right from your computing device or your phone or tablet or any other device that has web access. Leave me a voicemail and I'll get that. And they're limited to about a 90-second window, so try to keep these at about a minute is a good rule of thumb. You can also email me. The contact button there on that page will allow you to send an email, ask me anything. There's some options you can click, including if you're interested in being on the street team. I'm not really taking street team members right now, but you never know. You just never know. But there's also, if you have a podcast of your own and you'd like to interview me, or you have an event you'd like to have me schedule me to appear at or speak at, that's the place to do it. And you can so as things go along, I'm getting new resources. There's going to be an itinerary page where you can see where I'm going to be appearing over the coming months on the new website. So that kind of stuff is happening. Anyway, that's what I was going to say. Follow me. Follow me on Twitter. You can follow me at Kevin Tomlinson. The show now has its own Twitter account, which is at WordslingerPod. And because that's as many letters as it would let me use. So pop in and follow us there. You can also find us on Facebook if you just search Kevin Tomlinson and or Wordslinger Podcast, and I'm going to pop up. Reach out, say hello. You can send me messages there, questions, that sort of thing. I pretty much respond to everything. Sometimes I miss stuff. If we're not connected already, sometimes it doesn't alert you that you have a message on there, but so I apologize if people have sent things. I try to check, but I forget. It's just not top of mind. But if you follow the show, you can leave comments on there, ask questions from there as well. So I can't promise I'll read or play every question I get, but when I do get them, they do get listened to and read and responded to, and I'm very grateful. So that's it. We are well past the hour, and nearly an hour and 10 minutes. Sorry for going quite a bit over. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy that we're able to do this sort of thing together. God bless each of you. Stay safe out there, especially if you're in the Texas Gulf Coast area. Stay high and dry. Take care of yourselves, your families, and your loved ones. And I will see you all next time.
Word Slinger.